Here's the problem. A friend of mine who bought this American Strat Special, it's a USA model, came to me saying he's got a problem with his Strat, and the problem that he had is that the first and second strings sound quieter than the rest of the strings. He had taken it back to the place that he bought the guitar from, and he even looked around to try and figure out what the problem was with this kind of a setup. And he contacted me and asked my opinion of it, and I realized this was not an issue, but something that Strat had launched some time back. Here's the problem. It's a modern replica of a vintage guitar. So what they've done is they've put vintage staggered pole pieces on the regular pickups. Now the problem with that is, while it's got a vintage sound, because of the different heights of the poles, there's obviously different volumes in the string sound. Now the curvature of the radius on the neck is supposed to equal the curvature of the pole pieces on the pickup, but it's not the case.
They're all skewed.
They, as you can see.
Is that how it came from the factory?
It comes set like this on purpose.
Why? But why?
The reason is the curvature of the neck, obviously the highest point is going to be the middle of the neck, should coincide with the highest pole pieces on the pickups. This is flat and this is curved. So they curve this and obviously curve the bridge in the setting up of the action of the guitar. The problem is with the vintage pickups were designed with a much higher radius. And because of that higher radius, these pole pieces on the outer end were placed much further down and the middle ones placed much further up. However, based on the amount of coiling done in the pickups, you could decide the output of the pickups. Well, in modern pickups, for example, these are Texas Special pickups. You could decide what type of output you wanted from the pickup. So what Fender did was they launched these pickups with original vintage pole piece settings. So they are designed like this on purpose. As a result, when you strum your guitar, you have an uneven spread of volume between the strings. So to correct this is actually not an easy job. I'm going to show you exactly what I'm going to do. I'm just going to do one pickup, and then you can understand how this works. I've removed the screws. I hope I can save these strings. I've removed the strings. I've removed the screws from the scratch plate. And there's an issue with the modern Fender style fingerboards, is that the fingerboard protrudes slightly over the scratch plate. So picking up the scratch plate is very difficult to get off, especially because the pickup is actually holding this in place. It needs some jipperwing to actually get off without actually damaging the neck, the body, or even the scratch plate. So not something I would recommend that anyone tackles on their own.
It's almost like they want you to take the neck off as well.
Well, and you should never do that. So I'm going to do this rather carefully. So if you notice here, because these are replicas, the pole pieces don't actually match the way that it's staggered. They're all flat on this end. So that means to correct this, I can't push up the bottom pole pieces. I'm going to have to push down the top pole pieces. So professional luthiers will have a specific gauge tool that measures the radius of this and places that over the pickups to measure the radius to match, and obviously over the bridge itself. So I'm going to do something slightly different. I'm going to drop the pole pieces of those middle pickups, which are the highest, and try and match them together. The problem is you can't do it with the pickup cover. So you're going to need to remove the pickup completely and then remove the pickup cover. One of the things that I recommend to people who want to do their own repairs is you need to have exceptionally steady hands when working with tools.
It's very much like being a surgeon.
100%. In that if you don't have steady hands and you drop your screwdriver right onto the body of your guitar, well, that's it for the body. So I'm going to remove the pickup cover. There you go. Now the danger is, this is actually the sound of the guitar, those coils. You do not want to touch them at all. It's a magnetized field, so if you just touch a screwdriver to that, you're going to damage it. So if you look at this is all flat at the bottom, and this is curved. So I can't really adjust the pole pieces at the end. What I am going to do is I'm going to try and flatten them all. That will give a much smoother, more even tone sound. Right now, these two are the loudest sounding strings because those pole pieces are the highest. By pushing those down, it's going to protrude on this end. So let's give it a try. Remember this? These pole pieces are suspended in between the coil with nothing. There's wax that's actually holding it in position. So I'm not going to damage it by pressing it down. Sometimes it's
That's
not
so
as
easy.
it's not as easy as
You're just really strong.
eat pro neutral.
That one's giving you some trouble. Oh, oh.
I think it's because I'm holding the end here. Still is giving trouble.
Reminds me of that Lab Cooper song, Got the Better of Me.
There you go. More comments there, deal. Alright. That looks like it's coming along nicely. And then the owner of this guitar obviously wanted the sound of these bottom two strings to obviously be a bit louder. So I'm going to leave those pole pieces up. So as you can see, there's some wax buildup on there. That's fine, you don't have to worry about it. You can remove the wax, and I suggest that you do so very gently. Make sure that none of the wax actually gets onto the coil.
Definitely can't get wax on that coil.
Yeah, it's a special tool.
Where'd you get that thing?
This one
I thought it was from your makeup box.
That's exactly where I got it from, Dale. And because, in general, most Strats do have a higher curvature in their fingerboards as compared to, say, flat fingerboards like Ibanez, I'm going to have to raise middle pole pickups just a little bit. This is not a given science because I don't have the correct tool. And once you move these pole pieces up and down, they become more free and easier to move. So it's actually quite a gentle thing to move them later on. And that's about it. So we'll drop this one down a little bit more.
They said these were Texas specials.
Texas
So are they on
specials.
Nico or what are they?
No. So the type of magnet that's actually used makes a difference. The type of coil that's actually used makes a difference, and the type of wax that's used in the pickup makes a difference. So the original high output pickups were actually dipped in ceramic. So imagine you couldn't get to this because the whole pickup was dipped in ceramic. So Alnico is the type of magnet that's actually used inside here. Alright, so I'm going to close it up. When you're putting this pickup cover back on, sometimes you might leave a space here. So when you put the screw back in, you're going to realize that this is sticking out quite a lot. So ensure that when you put this on, it sits flush and the pole pieces are actually in line. So I think my fingers are blocking there. Alright, I'm going to try and seal this back. So like I said, when you're putting this in, try and make sure that the pickup cover is flush with the body. I think a lot of people who work, especially with something as expensive as this guitar, are too apprehensive to actually do things. As long as you know the guidelines and the parameters within to work, should be fine. There you go. What's interesting about this guitar, the way that it's done, is they actually use pieces of rubber to suspend the pickup.
Yeah, they used to have screws in them. Oh, not screws,
Springs.
Springs, yeah.
Yeah.
I've lost all my springs. I'm just kind of like hanging.
So you mean you just have a screw holding the pickup in place?
Yeah, I know.
This screw that I'm adjusting right now controls the height of the pickup. And now that I've adjusted the pole pieces, I'm just going to put this one back. You can worry about it. We're going to compare the rest of the pickups in terms of height. So if you look at those pole pieces versus these pole pieces, this should give a much better curvature and a much even tone, even volume from the output of this particular
Do
pickup.
you mind just holding it up to the camera so we can see that angle?
You can actually even see the curvature of the board in that sense.
There we go. You can just tilt it slightly, yeah, you can see the difference.
You can see the pickup pole pieces and the one that I adjusted. And that's it. It's quite a simple job. I don't know why a lot of people are too afraid to tackle pole pieces. But now that it's done, you know, if I move it back and forth, if they were protruding, I can literally just use my finger and pick it up or push it back down. Modern guitars don't have these old style pole pieces. They actually have screws. So you can use a screwdriver and adjust the height of the pole piece. And I think even more modern pickups actually have an Allen key. Specifically the humbuckers have an Allen key that you can adjust this. I'll do another workshop some other time to describe how to do the humbucker setups. That's it. All done.